Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Let there be podcast, and there was podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. This is Rhit, past master and current secretary of Fort Worth 148.
Gabriel Jagush, Master Mason with Fort Worth 148. And tonight, we have a special guest.
Hi, this is Cody Cox from Tarrant Lodge number 942, and also the current potentate's aide for Moslah Temple.
Good to have you on the show, Cody. Good to have you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Excellent.
Sweet.
I'm gonna have a lot of pleasure in hearing those words as the future goes on.
Most definitely. So what do we get into first? It's news, right, Gabe?
Right. Let's talk news. On May 15th in the Fort Worth Temple, a fellowcraft degree was put on by 148. A good time was had by all, but most especially by the brother receiving the degrees, of course. He had a lot of cool input afterwards, and discussion and brainstorming and general chit-chat was had over delicious greasy foods and refreshing drinks afterwards. Many congratulations to our newest fellowcraft. That's a really interesting degree. There's a lot that goes into it. I'm still digesting it from when I had mine. In national news, kind of a funny social media side note, the Grand Lodge of Maryland has posted a pretty funny video. You can go check it out on their Facebook group, Freemasons of Maryland. On May 25th in Los Angeles, the former temple of the LA Scottish Rite Valley has been turned into a private museum and will be opening. The new owners, the Marciano Art Foundation, will be displaying the private collections of the Marciano brothers. In educational news, the Northern Masonic jurisdiction of the Scottish Rite Supreme Council is releasing a comprehensive guidebook for their degrees. This is something that Scottish Rite Masons in the Northern Masonic jurisdiction have been really wanting for a long time. Now, I'm not yet a Scottish Rite Mason, but my understanding is that NMJ ritual is pretty different from Scottish Rite ritual in the Southern Masonic jurisdiction and elsewhere around the world. So all the resources that exist for the Southern jurisdiction and for all the other jurisdictions doesn't really quite apply. So the fact that this is coming out is wonderful news. There's going to be a lot of brothers getting a lot of mileage out of this. It's a pretty big step because the last time a good guidebook was published for the NMJ ritual work, that was 1907, so 100 years ago. The book is available for $27 and shipping from Cornerstone Publishing. And so you can learn a little bit more about that on Brother Chris Hodap's blog, Freemasons for Dummies. In news abroad, the Isle of Man has released a special collection of post stamps to commemorate the 300th anniversary of the UGLE. They have standard sets and fancy sets, and they ship worldwide. So if you're not located in the UK, you can still get those. So you can hit them up at iompost.com. All right, so for our listener question, I need to provide a little bit of context for our listener question. For our listeners that aren't familiar with them, the DMLA organization is a male youth group in the Masonic family. So, listener question. Let's say I'm a DMLA trying to set up a fundraiser event. What kind of events would Masons be most likely to come to? And keep in mind that if it's DMLAs organizing this, we're all going to be minors and none of us will be of legal drinking age. So, DMLA-friendly events? Any ideas, guys?
That's a really good question. The first thing that comes to mind, if they need help raising money, is to just mail a letter to every lodge. If not, go visit at a stated meeting dinner and hand deliver the letter. Because anytime they ask, we give. And, of course, we try to give every year a little bit of money to them. But That's a good question. I would think something like a paintball tournament, or something like that, to where you had double what it costs to buy in. That's
so
a tough
you
one.
like you recoup 100%?
Yeah, so like it costs $25 to get in a paintball for 2 hours, and you charge $50 to enter the tournament for the paintball tournament. Have a few things set up, and winner gets a high five.
Winner gets a high five. Oh, I'm sure you can come up with a little plastic trophy of some kind, right?
Of course, you could come up with something, So, but you could meet out at the go-kart track, or you just got to think about what it is you like to do, and not only use it as a fundraising event, but use it as hey, we're an actual organization over here, to where you can tell your friends at school, come on out and ride go-karts with us. Bring your dad.
That sounds cool. Cody, does the Shrine ever do stuff with the DMLA?
Well, I know that the Shrine actually sponsors one of the DMLA groups. So, but as far as like fundraising and stuff like that, I'm not really familiar with that. Another thing that the DMLA might be able to do is if they had some sort of. We did this when I was in school, and you have to be a little careful with it, but it's actually a good moneymaker. Is have like an auction, like a live auction, where you actually auction off yourself for like doing chores and things like that. So you auction yourself off for, like, we'll say $50 an hour, or somebody says, I'll give $450 for 3 hours of your time or something like that. So
I
have seen that. That is a good idea.
Actually, we used to do something pretty similar back at my home church where I grew up. People would auction off pies, things like that. Like, hey, like I will make X number of pies to order at Y dollars per pie. Things like that. I will come and do 2 days of yard work. So I have heard of that actually. So that's kind of cool. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to kind of work around, some of the insurance issues in case there's anything like that. But usually if it's, for people in your lodge and stuff like that, you shouldn't have too much problems with that. Or, just do a good old-fashioned bowl-a-thon.
A bowl-a-thon, yeah, that could be cool.
Yeah.
I like the idea of the chores are really good because, things like that makes them look very positive to
the other thing too. Well, the other thing, too, with that is that it helps them to understand that the money that they're raising, they didn't just have it handed to them. They actually had to work for it. So it kind of instills with them the idea of the value of the dollar that they just earned.
That's a good... That's a really good... It's a very twofold sort of experience.
Absolutely. I mean, Cody's got a good point. You don't necessarily want a 12-year-old or 13-year-old up there cleaning your gutters. But even, because I think about like our lodge room, it can go a while before it gets cleaned. What a great idea. Maybe we need to get like a bi-weekly...
A 12-year-old can dust.
I think
you got it.
That carpet was last vacuumed when Solomon was around.
That's what I'm saying, to where, I mean, figure out a fair price, $125 a month, if they'll go vacuum and tidy stuff up twice a month, or something. But there's a lot of good ideas that, if they kind of sat down and brainstorm, because reaching out to all of the lodges and appendant bodies is a great way. I mean, it's hard to say no to your youth when they're asking for help.
Yeah. How are you going to tell a kid no, right? Unless they're asking for more TV
Exactly.
time. But
well,
I also really like the paintball idea.
Well, the other thing that they could do is that, I don't know if they do this currently, but they could offer, for the lodges for like their stated meeting to come and serve, somebody cooks the meal, but the DMLA could actually go and serve the meal and do the dishes for, a fee of some sort.
I like that idea. That's a cool thing to do. They could be like auxiliaries to the stewards or something like that.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea. Because there's only going to be 2 stewards, and they need all the help they can get usually. So I like this idea. So the other listener question that I had was, what is one form of Masonic Lodge etiquette that you have seen in the past or have heard of, having been from the past, that you want to see make a comeback, or a form of Masonic etiquette that you have seen at other lodges that you would like to see your lodge start doing?
Probably wait for acknowledgement from the worshipful master. And I say that because I'm the worst at it. I'll just stand up and start answering questions. But I should stand up and address the worshipful master and wait for him to tell me I got permission to talk, you know.
I had a really interesting conversation with a brother who was telling me about the time that he was pro-temming in somebody else's lodge, and he was, I believe, the junior deacon, and the past master, not the past master, the sitting master told him, hey, he gave him a command from worshipful to junior deacon, and the guy that I was talking to says, and I just stood there, and I said, wait a minute. Oh, because he didn't gavel you, right? And he said, exactly. I was waiting for him to gavel me because that's how we do it at our lodge. And he just didn't gavel him. And he said, Brother Junior Deacon, did you hear me? Yes, Worshipful Master. Then why aren't you doing it? And he just stood there. And until the guy said, in our lodge, you just do as the master says. I gave you an order as the worshipful master. And so that was kind of a fun sort of... It's an interesting way of enforcing etiquette. I like it.
Cody, what do you got?
Well, I was thinking as far as something that I think would be helpful, I've heard about this before, is that in some lodges, the junior deacon was in charge of making sure that all of the regalia was laid out so people didn't have to get around the cabinet to, put on all their stuff.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the junior deacon was kind of like the pursuivant of his lodge. And yeah. I think that would actually be helpful. I've done that a couple of times at Tarrant Lodge, and it just helps with the bottleneck that you get on stated meeting nights where everybody's trying to put on their stuff before they go into the lodge room, and everybody kind of congregates in that one little area. So as I put it, I say it's like a full service lodge.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you, so you set the jewel in the chair, right? Do you put the apron there with it?
I sure do.
We do the same thing. But of course, actually, we don't do that anymore because we wear white apron. Everybody wears white aprons now. So, but, I've seen some lodges that don't like you coming in the door, even when it's not tiled, without an apron on, when lodge is about to be open. So I've heard different sides of that coin, but I like that, to where you walk up to your station, get dressed up, because you shouldn't be walking in late if you're wearing an apron and a jewel. It happens, but you've got duties before lodge is opened as an officer.
Well, and the thing is, like you just said, you have duties beforehand. So sometimes maybe your mind might not be, where it needs to be, and you go in there and you forget your jewel or you forget something like that. So why not just have it right there ready for you to go?
Yes, I have seen someone forget their apron and lodge was open.
That happens, yeah.
Yeah,
but I'm with you on that. Having the jewels laid out is really nice, and that's actually when I get to lodge early, that's one of the first things that I do, just because I'm usually trying to distract myself from, because usually if it's for a degree or whatever, I'm usually trying to calm down a little bit. So I'll be like muttering ritual to myself while I lay out all the jewels and stuff. My brother. One of the forms of etiquette that I've seen that I really think would be awesome to have back is the standing to order, which I've actually seen people do this in a few other lodges, but you put your hand over your heart when you address the worshipful master. And I've seen it where some people keep some people stand to order the entire time that they are talking to the worshipful, and some people stand to order when they address him and then drop their hand for the rest of the statement. And I like that one, where it's, that's, the acknowledgement, and then boom, you can relax.
Yeah.
So standing to order just seemed like a really cool sort of thing to do. And I actually started doing that. So,
see, actually, that would be a good way of getting the practice of getting the worshipful master's acknowledgement. Like, you have to stand up, stand to order until the worshipful master acknowledges you, and then you can drop it. It's kind of like raising your hand Masonic style. You know what I mean? Like, I got something to say. Here's the sign to the worshipful master. Do I have permission to speak?
yeah, I still raise my hand. I don't know. Nobody else seems to do it. And I think I'm still just getting that collegiate, factor getting rinsed out of me a little bit. But I still raise my hand as I'm standing up and everything. So.
Well, and yeah, because you should stand up, especially if somebody's going on. Because in a stated meeting, you shouldn't go on more, maybe 3 to 4 minutes at max on any specific subject. Because if you got 10 guys in there and we all talk for 3 minutes, that's going to be a browbeating,
What, you don't like soliloquies when there are other things to be done?
Unless it's a committee report. If we're just talking about a subject, say your piece, get quick, concise, to the point, and hop down. And if they're not, that's another good signal, stand up. But even if, it happens all the time, 2 guys stand up at once, the worshipful master should acknowledge one.
Another thing, I don't think this is necessarily a Texas thing, but I've seen it on some things, and I think it's pretty cool, and that is in lodges. I wish that they would do this where they would have the junior and senior deacons use the rods instead of the gavels. I think this is a northern thing, but I think it would be kind of cool if we did it down here.
Yes, apparently that's an F&AM thing. I thought that was really interesting. There's not a lot of functional differences between AF and AM and F and AM, but that is one of those little, like, hey, here is the difference. So I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah, my cousin's a member in Louisiana, and I think they use that there. I'm almost positive, because they do most of the lecture you get in the fellowcraft is done in the degree there. It's a little different, but the same.
Yeah, I know some guys up from Northeast where I was talking with them about dividing the lectures and stuff. How now you and I kind of trade off on doing lectures and stuff, and because it's a very long lecture and everything, and they're going, what do you mean it's a long lecture? And each one of us takes a part. And I went, what are you talking about? And there are some jurisdictions in the Northeast, each person does one part of the lecture, which I thought that was really interesting.
Huh, that is pretty cool.
So anyway, I was thinking we should probably get to the main content. All right, so today's episode is Shrine 101, and our special guest, as y'all already know, is Brother and Noble Cody Cox. So, Brother Cox, tell us a little bit about yourself and your path to Masonry, path to the shrine, that kind of thing.
Well, first off, I wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to come onto the show and speak to your audience. I know that the illustrious Sir Phil True, our potentate at Moslah Shrine, certainly thanks you for that as well. So I wanted to start off with that. My Masonic path has been fun. I was raised at Arlington Heights Lodge, number 1184, a few years back, and then I was there for a little while, and then somebody talked to me about Scottish Rite. Brother of ours up in Oklahoma talked to me about that, so I actually joined Scottish Rite in McAllister, and then came back here and went back for a visit. And while I was up there, I got a chance to visit with some Shriners in Oklahoma. And they were talking to me about the circus, and I was like, wow, this is a really cool thing. So when I got back down here, I started investigating the shrine and kind of seeing what they, were all about. And if anybody, knows me, they know that I'm really into service and helping people and things like that, but having fun at the same time. And the shrine really just fit well with what I wanted to do. So I actually joined in July of 2015, but I had a pretty cool experience because I was actually able to get my fez at the Imperial session in Houston. My wife and I went down there, and it was really cool because my dad was able to be there, and my mom and my sister and my niece were able to actually see my wife put my fez on my head. So that was pretty cool.
That's super
And then
cool.
I went through I went through the full ceremonial in October of 2015.
Okay, and then the Imperial Shrine, that's like Grand Lodge for a shrine?
Yeah, think like Grand Lodge, but like the United States,
Whoa.
it's all of the states and stuff like that. So, but currently I am over at Tarrant Lodge 942. I'm the junior deacon there, and I am a proud member of the unit at Moslah called the Bedouins. We are the Oriental band. I play the cymbals for that one, and this year I'm currently serving as the potentate's aide. So that's where I am coming to you guys from.
Cool. So, what is, and you're a member of Moslah then?
Yes, sir.
And so so in addition to the shrine, you're also in the Scottish Rite and of course Blue Lodge. Okay, so we got your basic bodies covered, right?
You got my pedigree.
There we go. A pedigree. I like that. And so so you mentioned the Bedouins. What do they do? My understanding is that they perform at events and that they're like a Middle Eastern band, right?
Right. Most of the instruments that you're going to see in the Oriental band are going to be, we have like big bass drums, we have snare drums, we have quads. Those are the ones that have like 4 drums. We have tambourines. We have, they call them bells, but it's a glockenspiel. It's like a xylophone, so to speak. We have, of course, cymbals. You'll see me dancing around like a crazy fool with the cymbals. And then we have what's called a musette. It's a member of the woodwind family, and it looks like a really fancy schmancy kind of recorder. And the easiest way for me to explain what it is think of a snake charming horn.
A snake charming horn. Okay, that's kind of cool. So
yeah,
that's kind of like the higher pitched, reedy sounding one.
Yeah, like I said, it's a member of the woodwind family, and I believe that its origins are actually in China.
In China, okay. So, Arabic band, Chinese instrument, or of Chinese origin. That's kind of cool.
You got it.
I can hear y'all play sometimes when we're doing chapter and council practice. It's kind of cool because we're going, what is that? Oh, it's the Bedouins. Okay.
Well, then we'll try and be louder next time.
I like it. I'm a big fan. The ambient music.
As long as it doesn't sound like we're skinning cats down there, because sometimes, it happens.
Somebody hits the wrong reed or whatever.
You got it. So, or I miss a crash of the cymbals.
In addition to the Bedouins, are you involved in any of the other units, or do brothers in the shrine get involved in more than one unit, or do people tend to focus on one?
Well, it used to be that you could only be a member of one of the units, but they changed that a few years ago. So you can be in, a number of units. But my perspective, again, this is just my perspective, is that, if you really want to be great at something, you really kind of need to focus in, on something. So most of the brethren, they'll just focus in on one particular unit.
That seems fair. Yeah, if your passion is motor corps, do motor corps. If your passion is Bedouins, do that. I like that.
Right.
And so what is, as the potentate's aide, is that kind of, I guess, is there a Blue Lodge equivalent to that, or what are the potentate's aides' responsibilities?
Well, the potentate's aide is basically there to, if the potentate needs anything, he can kind of ask me to help him, if there's a special project or something, so I kind of do that. One of the things that I've kind of taken on as the aide is I try to kind of look for opportunities like this podcast to, get out there and kind of be a voice for Shrindom, with everyone. When we had the 64th district meal, when the Grandmaster came, I made sure that the potentate was there because I felt that it was a great opportunity for us to kind of, again, be out there and show everyone, that we're still there and, doing what we are. One of the things that I wanted to definitely make sure was that, for me, I want to make sure that people that are listening to this understand that the appendant bodies, and especially the shrine, we're here to enhance a brother's Masonic experience, not replace the Blue Lodge. I'm sure some people have probably heard me say this before, but it begs to be repeated. There is no replacement for the Blue Lodge. You really should be a great Blue Lodge member and then enhance, again, your Masonic work with Scottish Rite or York Rite or Shrine or whatever you decide to do.
Right. And that's a conversation we've been having kind of, because there's kind of two different schools of philosophy that I'm fond of both of them, and one of them is that, hey, if you find your passion in York Rite or Scottish Rite or the Shrine, then go do that. You don't have to be super active in your Blue Lodge. You don't have to go seek chairs, or you don't have to become a lecturer or a master ritualist or anything. But
right.
Go pursue that. Go pursue where you find more light, more happiness, that kind of thing. But
right.
Obviously, make sure that you at least go to your stated meetings or something.
I would welcome anybody to, ask us, about as far as how many of the guys that we have at the stated meeting. I mean, naturally, you can't come into the stated meeting unless you're a Shriner, but, we have people that are officers in their lodges stand up at our meetings, and I can tell you that there are quite a few of the nobles at Moslah Shrine that are officers at their lodge, past masters, all that kind of stuff.
Right. They one of the interesting things that I've seen about the shrine, where kind of like one of the ways that it was originally kind of, envisioned, was as the playground for the masons that had toiled all day in the quarries. And I really like that visual, It's
right
where people go to do enjoyable things, like riding
well
in
it's
go-karts
interesting
or
it's
playing in the
interesting
band.
that you bring that up because that's the history. I have some history of the shrine in case anybody wanted to know exactly where shrine came from.
Actually, yeah, tell us about the history of the shrine.
Okay, well, basically we're going to go back to the year 1870. We're going to go to New York New York City actually, and there's a place on 6th Street called the Knickerbocker Club. And this was or Knickerbocker Cottage, excuse me. And it was a place where Masons would meet for lunch. They would have lunch together. And so there was a group. I'm sure some of your listeners have probably heard of things called like the High Noon Club and things like that. But it was, they would meet to have lunch with one another. And this group of 13 Masons that would meet, they were kind of known for being funny and being witty and things like that. And they were having discussions one time about the fact that, they enjoyed Masonry, but it was always so serious. It was always just about the ritual. And they didn't feel like they got to have any fun. And so they started talking about, what could we do to have fun? And there's two particular guys in this story. One is the guy by the name of Walter Fleming, and he was a doctor. And the other guy is his name is William Florence, but everybody called him Billy. He was an actor. And so they kind of got into this whole discussion about how could they as Masons have kind of like a separate group where they could just have fun and not focus on ritual or anything like that. And so Billy had just gotten back from the Middle East and Europe on a tour because he was an actor. And so while he was gone, he was in Marseille, France, actually. He was invited to a party that an Arabian diplomat had thrown. And at this party, it was an Arabian Middle Eastern themed party. And at the end of the party, apparently what had happened is everybody that was there became like members of this like secret society. So it was something kind of fun. So he brought that back, was like, hey, why don't we do something like this? And Fleming thought that was a great idea. And Fleming was actually a ritualist. So he started writing all the rituals for this. And out of all of that discussion of, hey, can we just have something fun where we can all get together and socialize with one another, came the shrine, which at that time they called it the Ancient Arabic Orders of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine, which is an acronym for a Mason.
Oh, how about that? That's pretty cool. I like that.
Right. So, and that's a lot of people have a lot of questions on, like, why are you guys wearing fezzes, and why do you guys have scimitars on your hats, and why is everything this Middle Eastern theme, especially in today's world? And it was one of those things that was in vogue at that time. Just like, a couple of years ago, everybody was having a Gatsby party because the Gatsby thing was cool. Well, at the time that the shrine came into being, the Middle Eastern thing was cool. It was the thing to do. Well, we just kept it going.
That is pretty cool.
Gotcha.
And so the secret society that you mentioned, is the shrine a continuation of that, or no? Is it just an inspiration?
I think it was just an inspiration. Like I said, I don't know too much about this party that Florence went to, but again, it was just this, at the end of this party, everybody was kind of made, I think it was just kind of like a joke, like a ha-ha, but he thought it was really cool, and he brought it back, and everybody thought, hey, why don't we do that? And so that's why we have the stuff that we do.
That is really cool. I love that an actor and a ritualist got together and said, "Hey, we can turn this into something really cool."
Right.
That's the stuff of legends right there. And
I'm just going to tell you, if you ever see a picture of Fleming, he has the world's best mutton chops. I'm talking like turn of the century awesomeness.
I think I've seen a picture of him in his fez, and it's like the mutton chops are almost as long as his fez is tall, right?
Pretty much. He looks like a triangle.
He looks like a I like that. That's pretty cool. So can you tell us any bit about Moslah Shrine?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit, the stuff that I know, and I will tell you guys right now, I don't know all the answers because, again, I've only been in Moslah for a couple of years, but trust you me, I know plenty of people that know the answers, and I can get them for you.
Okay.
But as far as Moslah, Moslah actually was born out of Hella Shrine that's over in Dallas. That's kind of where we came from, because there were brothers that were here in Fort Worth that were tired of having to go all the way to Dallas. We're talking turn of the century. That's a kind of a bit of a ways to go. So they decided that they wanted to have a temple over here in Fort Worth, and there's a whole big history on this one, but they loaded up a train. They took a bunch of brothers that wanted to do this. They loaded up a train and went to Imperial to ask for Moslah to be started, and they got it. Now, you guys do know that Moslah wasn't always downtown Fort Worth, right?
How many places have they been?
Well, Moslah's only been two places. The original Moslah Temple was actually on Lake Worth. For anybody that's listening here in Fort Worth, if you know of a place on Lake Worth, it's called Mosque Point. The reason it's called Mosque Point is because that's where the original Moslah Temple was at.
I've seen pictures of it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and it actually burnt down because one of the boilers that was in the bottom floor exploded, and there's all kinds of stories and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a beautiful building, but you can still actually go to where it was at. It's called Mosque Point. It's a park here in Fort Worth.
So you mentioned it's called Mosque Point. Is that
Mm-hmm.
Now? In Blue Lodge and a couple other places, we call it a temple. Commandery calls it an asylum. Right. Is the proper form of address for the location of a shrine a mosque?
A lot of people have questions about this, and if you're talking about just like the group of guys, just a bunch of Shriners, you would just call them Shriners. If we're talking about Moslah specifically, we would be talking about, you can call it Moslah Temple, but it was back, I want to say in like 2002, that they preferred just using Moslah Shrine. They wanted to get away from the whole temple idea. So if you're talking about Moslah today, Moslah Shrine is what you would use.
Okay, cool. Okay.
But oftentimes when we talk about like us getting together, I'll say, hey, I'm going up to temple.
Okay, well, and yeah, because that's the big catch-all. Because you say I'm going up to the temple, and everybody that could ever exist meets up in there. So that's a pretty good catch-all.
Exactly.
Can you tell us about the macro structure of the shrine? So, like the kind of, you mentioned it's the
sure. You're talking
shrine?
about like how Imperial works and all that kind of stuff, and I actually have some of that stuff written down. So again, when you're thinking about shrine, I can kind of frame it using Blue Lodge. So again, Shriners have temples, or we can call them centers, and Masons have Blue Lodges. Okay. As far as the governing body for Shrine International, we're talking all the Shriners all over the world. You have Shrine International, and that's actually in Tampa, Florida. We have what's called the Imperial Potentate, and so he's like the Grand Master, if you want to think about it that way. And then of course he has the Imperial Divan, that's kind of like the board of directors underneath him. And so that's kind of over the whole, structure of, shrine. But if you come to Moslah, right. So if you come to Moslah, you're going to see something like that. It's a little bit different because we don't have like a deputy potentate. We don't have anything like that. So if you're thinking Blue Lodge, think of it this way. Our potentate is a Blue Lodge's worshipful master.
Okay.
And then you have the Chief Raban, who is next in line, and he's kind of like the senior warden. Assistant Raban, he's kind of like your junior warden. And then you have a guy that's called the High Priest and Prophet, and he's kind of like your senior deacon.
Okay.
You have a guy that's called the Oriental Guide, and he's kind of like your junior deacon. We have a recorder, which is the same thing as a secretary, and then of course we have a treasurer. So all of those guys, the potentate, the chief Raban, the assistant Raban, high priest and prophet, Oriental Guide, recorder, and treasurer, that makes what's called the divan, and that is our board of directors.
Okay, so that's kind of like the office, then what we would just call like the officer line or whatever in Blue Lodge.
Yeah. So, it's like working through the chairs, so to speak.
So what's an officer position in the divan that you think is very different from the functions you would see in Blue Lodge, for example? Like something that it's not even that, like, in terms of compared to their analog, but maybe something that doesn't even exist in Blue Lodge. Is there anything like that?
Well, just kind of thinking off the fly here, the chief Raban, well, this is something that the senior warden wouldn't even think about, but the chief Raban is the person that's in charge of the shrine, our circus we have every year. So that's kind of his job. So he's over that. The assistant Raban is over the hospital fund drive. So any type of thing that we do during the year that has to deal with getting money for our hospitals, he's in charge of. High priest and prophet does another thing. Oriental Guide does something else. So yeah, there's differences. It's kind of difficult for me to say this is something that you wouldn't think about, but for me, I might say that it's take what you're responsible for at your lodge and multiply it maybe by 5.
Right, so everybody's got their plate real full then.
Yeah. It's, trust you me, it's really full.
Would you say that most people that get into the shrine and then become officers, would you say that usually they become officers after going through the Blue Lodge chairs, or maybe concurrently or before? Like, is there a trend that you see?
I haven't really seen a trend, but for the most part, I think that people go on, they become members of the divan after they've gone through the chairs in their lodge. And even with like presidents of the units and things like that, I think they usually wait until they're done with the chairs. At least that's what I've seen. That there's exceptions to the rules all the time, but that's what I would
knock
say.
out one super hectic thing at a time.
Right. I don't see how anybody could, possibly be, president of their unit and a master of their lodge or anything like that. I mean, we're not all Ricky Cox. We can't all do,
Shout out.
Oh, howdy, Brother Ricky.
but
But
we know all those kind of people that, again, it's whatever you want to do. I don't personally myself, I'm not planning on doing anything in shrine until, one, I'm asked to, and two, that I've given proper time to my Blue Lodge, but that's just a personal thing for me.
Okay. So I know you mentioned that you are in the Bedouins. So
Right.
if there was another unit, like if I said, hey, you can't be in Bedouins, what unit would you pick? Are there other units that you like in particular?
Wow, you're really wanting to put a target on my back, aren't you?
Getting him in trouble. Here we go.
You didn't talk about blah, blah. Okay. Well, first off, let me make sure that everybody understands, like, when we're talking about units, when you get into the shrine and you become a noble, which is what we call people that are members of the shrine, you're in what's called the general nobility. Okay. And then what was suggested to me when I first got in, and I suggest to guys as they get into the shrine, is to take a year to really kind of just get engrossed in what shrine is. Give yourself a chance to go and visit with all of the units that are available, and kind of fill out where your niche is. That's really what I would suggest. But the units, just so everybody understands, the units are basically like the working groups of the temple. We have different jobs and things like that. We perform duties for the potentate as he asks us, and of course, one of the big things with the units is every year in June we have TSA, which is the Texas Shrine Association, where we go to various cities around Texas and we actually compete against each other. So like, for instance, when you're hearing us, practice, that's because we're getting ready in June to go to Waco this year, and
you guys do
perform.
like competitions and stuff, right?
Yeah. We do stuff cool. like that. So, there's a number of units that you can join at Moslah. If you like playing instruments, we have a community band, which actually is pretty cool because people from the community can actually be part of the Moslah community band. They don't even have to be Shriners. And that's something that they changed a little while ago. So, if you're a Shriner and your wife wants to do something, and she plays the clarinet, she could be a member of the community band. She can play with them. If you like golf, we have a golf unit. If you like marching, we have a patrol unit. If you like driving, motorcycles, we have the motor corps. We have the Mystic Wheels. These are guys that drive little golf carts that go like 60, 70 miles an hour, and they do precision drills. Everybody, I think, pretty much knows about the Carvettes. Those are the guys that drive around in the little yellow cars that look like Corvettes.
Yes, I have
I've
seen
seen those
those.
before.
You more than likely have probably seen them like in the Parade of Lights and stuff like that. Then of course there's Flying Fez. That is a group of guys that they have the vans and they transport kids from North Texas down to the hospitals in Houston and all those types of places. They take them to Houston, they take them to Galveston. So that's something that they do. Of course, we have the Legion of Honor. If you were in the armed services, you can be a member of the Legion of Honor. They do like, the flag ceremonies and things like that. They're the color guard for Moslah. And then, of course, we have everybody, always thinks about when they think about the Shriners, they think about those clowns. So we have the clown unit, the guys that they just want to put a smile on a kid's face.
That's really cool. And do the
Sweet.
clowns also do like visit? Like I know that some groups do like hospital visitations for kids. Do the Shriner clowns do that too?
Yeah, they do that every so often. It just depends upon what the potentate asks us to do, and what we make time to do. Oftentimes when you come to the Shrine Circus, you'll see the Shrine clowns there, and you'll also see what are known as the Cowtown Clownettes, and that's actually the ladies from the Daughters of the Nile that are clowns that come and help us with that as well. And there are some groups, if there's listeners out there that are like, I was thinking about becoming a Shriner, but, I don't know if any of that stuff really works for me. We have some other groups that need some help. We had a thing called the Drum and Bugle Corps. So if you're into playing trumpets and things like that, we're in Fort Worth. There's a group called the Mounties, and these are guys that do, they ride horses and do drills on horses. And then of course we have chanters. So if you have a set of golden pipes, we can always have people that are singing and doing things like that. So
Me.
Cool.
not like that, but whatever.
I like that. The
So the sky's the limit, honestly, when it comes to what you want to do in the shrine to help out. Honestly.
So I guess you would kind of say that for a Master Mason who is just kind of really new to the shrine and he's maybe just getting acquainted with it, maybe he's still considering it. What would you say for somebody that's interested in getting a taste of the shrine? Kind of like how we go to the stated meetings before, as prospects. We went to the stated meetings of our blue lodges and stuff, and maybe we even got to see an installation if it was open or something like that, right? What would you say is the best, maybe not the best way, but in your opinion, like a very good way of getting a good feel for what the shrine does and is, and what it can do for a Master Mason?
Well, we have, different events throughout the year that are actually open, and these are like membership events. And that's actually what kind of got me into the shrine was a brother had invited me to one of their kind of recruiting parties, and it was called Margaritaville. And, everybody, just imagine a whole bunch of people dressed up as Jimmy Buffett wannabes. But there was live music and there was food and there was dancing and stuff like that. And so those types of events, I think, are a great way for people to kind of get a taste of the shrine. And we have those throughout the year. We just had one not too long ago, and it was a James Bond theme party.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
And we have these at the temple, and it's free for guests. We want people to come and to see what's going on, and so I would really encourage people to come to that. Other things that might be of interest. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that people could do. We had our Easter egg hunt at the temple. We were all out there in our fezzes and lots of people from the community were there. We have different types of things throughout the year, community events that we have at the temple for people to come. But really, honestly, if somebody is really, really interested in the shrine, talk to a Shriner.
So if a guy was like interested in one of the clubs, could they go visit one of those as well before they become a member to check it out?
Well, I mean, usually what would happen with that kind of thing is, if you're not a Shriner, we would have to get you in contact with like the president of the club and see if that would be okay. When the when the Bedouins, when we're up at the temple, if you wanted to see, well, what exactly does a Bedouin do? If they were to contact me or someone, I don't see a problem with them coming up and watching us play instruments. There's nothing secret about that.
Yeah. No, that I know that there's a lot of times where we'll be doing a degree and you guys will start kicking up some music and it's like we've got a soundtrack to our degree.
It is kind of cool.
I will apologize for some of those soundtracks right now because again we're practicing, and the thing is that a lot of people are like, well, I don't know if I want to be a Bedouin or I don't know if I want to do this or that because I've never done it before. So what? We're there to have fun. Come on up. I've heard you guys talk about it before. It's true. If you want to learn how to play a musette and you become a Shriner and you want to join the Bedouins, we will teach you how to play a musette. If you've never been on a go-kart in your life and you really think that, one of the golf cart things would be fun, then those guys will help you out. I mean, we're there, we're there to have fun, and we want you to feel a part of something.
Right. And then, so for a Shriner that is there, and you can join the shrine without joining a unit, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can be, like I said, you can be part of the general nobility, but if you really want to connect with the shrine and really get to, the whole idea of, why we're there, having fun with each other and stuff like that, you really should probably join a unit. Yeah.
Yeah. So you would say that if for somebody that's looking for something to do in the shrine, like, plan on joining the shrine, but also plan on shopping around for a unit. Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. But like I said, take that year to kind of just really get a feel for, it's going to get you a chance to learn who the guys are, to kind of get a feel for who these people are and stuff like that. So yeah, take that year. One thing I will mention, by the way, with the units is that we have units and we also have clubs. A lot of people are a bit confused about, well, what's the difference between a unit and a club? The clubs originally, way back when, was the idea that, you had people that were Shriners that lived way far away from the temple and never really had a chance to come into the temple except for a couple of times a year. So the clubs were a way for those Shriners that all lived around each other to kind of connect with one another. So we still have shrine clubs in, neighboring counties and things like that. And there's a few here in Tarrant County. But also on top of that, there's clubs that get together. We have a gun club. So if you like, shooting things, you can join the gun club. And that's not a unit, that's just a club. So you have your choice there too.
Okay, so then clubs will also have dues then?
Yeah, they'll have dues and things like that. I know a lot of people get turned off from Shrine because they're like, oh, it's so expensive. Nobody wants to, nobody can afford it and stuff like that. Trust me, I'm a public educator and I'm in the Shrine. So,
Yeah.
So for,
trust me, I don't have the Masonic gold that everybody talks about.
So without prying too deeply, then, what does the due structure for the shrine look like, kind of about it?
Okay, so the dues per year for being a Shriner are about $150. Okay, so that's for the year. And then, of course, when you join, you have to buy a fez. And fezzes are about $145 right now. But we have a lot of fezzes that, after people pass away, their families don't know what to do with these, so they donate them to Moslah. So we have fezzes, used fezzes available. So if a brother can't really spring for the $145 fez right now, well, we might have one that he can use until he gets there.
And it's kind of like a degree fee cost,
Yeah,
something
kind
you're
of
going to
like
be
that.
paying anyway.
Right. And then your dues, we have dues and assessments for each of the groups that are within Moslah. So you'll have to, you know, you'll have to kind of contact the presidents of the units and ask what the dues and assessments are. But the easiest way for me to explain what this is the dues are monies that you pay to be a member of that group. Okay. So you pay that every year. And then you have assessments, and the assessments are, again, let's go ahead and just get to this. The assessments are monies that we paid for unit functions, aka parties.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So your assessments is, it's kind of like everybody throws money into a pool, and then this is where the president or whoever's leading that group pulls the money to pay for the social functions that you have. And it may not necessarily be a party, it might be a dinner or something like that, but for Shriners it's usually our parties that we have.
Right, because it's the playground.
Right.
So assessment fees, if I don't want to go to an assessment, do I still have to pay the assessment fee?
Usually the assessments are kind of like, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay this assessment, regardless of going to the party or not.
Okay.
But why you wouldn't want to go, I mean, I don't have any idea. We have some pretty good times,
Yeah. Well, that and mandatory assessment fees really help kind of ensure that, like, hey, like, we don't have to worry. We will always have funding for this event.
Right. And
So
plus, with those
that's a
kind of
good
things,
thing.
you kind of have skin in the game, so to speak.
That's a good way of putting it. If somebody's invested in it, then yeah, they might be a lot more likely to attend.
Right. And I think the other thing is that a lot of people, when it comes to the money issues and stuff like that, I know that there are a lot of there's a lot of people that are leery of the shrine, because it was like, our grandfathers was like, oh well, that's only for like the really rich guys and stuff like that. It's really not that way anymore. It was just like with masonry. Masonry used to be pretty white collar, and it's starting to become a lot more blue collar. And so as the Blue Lodge goes, so does Shrine and all of that kind of stuff. So I would challenge anybody who still thinks a particular way, come and visit with us. Come in and have an engaging conversation with a Shriner, and I really think that they're going to come away with a different mindset.
Yeah, and it's you can't really experience something. You can't really know something without experiencing it. So yeah, that's something that I want to kind of do once my 24-inch gauge allows for it. Start checking out other pendant bodies and looking at that kind of thing, like Shrine and Grotto and a couple other things.
Exactly.
But right now, it's just the issue of finding the space on the 24-inch gauge. So for me, I am very lucky where that is less of an issue for me in terms of paycheck, but in terms of time, man, I don't know what I'm doing. So
Right, exactly.
But so kind of going back to the units, are there any units that like you tried and maybe like not to say that they're bad units or anything, but like that you didn't click with them, just kind of like you personally? Or was Bedouins kind of like the first thing you landed on and said, "Oh wow, this is me"?
Well, not really. I mean, for me, like I said, I took some time to go to the different units and things like that, just to kind of to check them out. And there really wasn't anything that turned me off of any of the units. Um, the reason that I became a Bedouin was, the person that helped signed my petition to become a Shriner was already a Bedouin. So, my decision was kind of made coming in.
Right.
For me, but I'm a musical person as it is anyways. So I was drawn towards, the performing units. So I looked at, the community band. I looked at, the Bedouins. I looked at a couple of the other ones, but it ultimately came down to I just really clicked with the guys that were in the Bedouins. And, they kind of took me under their wing and, made me a better person for it.
Cool. The now jumping backwards again to the Arabic Islamic themes, the Arabia-philia, I guess you would call it, of the late 1890s. So are there any things that are kind of seriously implemented from Arabic culture? Like, obviously in Blue Lodge we have a Bible on the altar and everything like that. Are we going to see, like, in the obligation for the shrine, is that going to be a Bible, or is that going to be like a Quran, or both, or maybe?
Oh yeah, I mean we have holy scriptures on the altar, for shrine and things like that, but you're not really going to see anything that's going to, at least in my opinion, you're not going to see anything that's going to be alarming. They used to have some stuff like that kind of in the olden days, but again, they're really conscientious of that nowadays. So a lot of that stuff has been kind of phased out. That's why we're no longer called, when you go to Shrine International, you're not going to see, that long an acronym of,
The
the ancient Arabic.
AAO.
Yeah, you're not going to see that. They just decided that's probably not a good idea. So you're going to see, less of that. But we're still holding true to where we came from. I mean, we still wear the fezzes. And, one of the things is, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening that are like, well, why the fez? Again, it had to deal with that Middle Eastern theme. And it's kind of our calling card. It's like the white apron of a master mason. That guy is a Shriner if you see that red fez. And so we've kind of held on to that. But, there's a lot of symbolism in the scimitar and all of that kind of stuff that's on the fez. And it's, it all has to deal with the idea that we're fraternity. The scimitar represents the brethren, the nobles. The star that's on it represents the kids that we help. So all of that stuff is, it's good stuff.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
When you say olden days, is that kind of like when I hear people talking about hot sands versus cold sands in terms of initiations and stuff?
Yeah. Hot sands, cold sands, all that kind of stuff. That is kind of the older generation type stuff. I would say that the shrine now, at least for me, has a newer feeling to it. We still honor, the past, but there is a definite kind of new breeze coming through Shrine, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, could you talk a little bit about the membership of Shrine? Because I've heard the numbers before, like at their peak, compared to what you are now today.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with membership is, I'll just let everybody know again, as the Blue Lodge goes, so does everyone else. York Rite, Scottish Rite, all that kind of stuff. So of course our numbers are down as well, because Blue Lodge numbers are down. And I, even thinking about that, I do want to let people know as well that the shrine is here to help. We want to help bring up numbers in the Blue Lodge, because then that means that there would be more people that would come into the shrine. So it's not like we're sitting off in the distance going, well, there's problems in the Blue Lodge with membership. I guess they need to do something. We want to help with that. And sometimes hopefully maybe it's the attractiveness of the shrine that gets guys into the Blue Lodge. And we can help facilitate them feeling again that they're doing something good. They're members of their Blue Lodge, but they can also be Shriners as well. So I think it's important for me to say that we're here to help with membership. As far as membership for Moslah goes, we are nowhere near the glory days that used to be.
Yeah, that's everybody.
We have a fez that's sitting in the office, and it says 10,000th member. That's because at one time, I think it was in the early 80s, we got close to 10,000 members in Moslah Shrine. And right now, I think we're sitting at about 1,600, 1,650 is where we're sitting. So, yeah.
That's a big difference.
Did they ever hand the fez out?
No, we didn't get to that point. We were so close that they ordered it. So
that hurts.
Yeah, it does hurt. I've suggested maybe taking the fez and like taking off a couple of the zeros and, maybe getting into, we'll keep it around until I'm like 60 and we'll give it to the 100th guy that's still in Moslah.
Or just turn it into whoever the 100th guy is that pays his dues that year.
That's right, or we'll give it away as a party favor or something like that. I don't know, But again, it's one of those things that we see that there is a problem with membership, and we're actively looking at what we can do. Rhit, I know you came and talked to the guys about membership and stuff like that, and so there's been a lot of discussion about that. One of the big things that I can't say enough good things about is that our Divan actually wrote a vision and mission statement for Moslah Shrine here recently. So we actually have that. So we have kind of like a document that we can kind of take our marching orders from.
That's awesome. Every lodge, every appendant body should have one of those. It's such a team building exercise. It really sets you to labor in the right direction.
Right.
Do you think that, are you seeing change as far as the membership? Do you feel that it's still in a decline, or do you think we're rounding back up?
Personally, if you're asking me personally, I feel like we're at a precipice. That there's something on the horizon that's going to start bringing up numbers, but again, I'm not looking to like return to the glory days where we were close to 10,000 members. You guys had mentioned one time on the podcast not too long ago the fact that maybe Masonry is kind of returning to its roots to where it was a small group instead of just vast amounts of guys that were coming in. So, honestly, that would be okay. But there's younger guys that are coming into the shrine that have some really good ideas. The face is kind of changing. We're trying to get on social media more and do things like that. So I look for there to be an upswing here in a little while in membership, maybe not in numbers, but an upswing in interest from younger guys.
Yeah, so maybe a little bit more of like a long-term, more sustainable crowd.
Right. I think one of the things that not only Shrine and York Rite and Scottish Rite, but Blue Lodges need to consider is that, we have a lot of our membership that is a member, that are that baby boomer generation. And, when they go to be with a grand architect, we're going to have a rapid drop off of membership. And so what are we doing now in order to prepare ourselves for that rapid drop off? And, it's kind of like, I know that in Shrine we've talked about, you should be bringing in at least one person each year. So like when you're gone, there's at least two people to replace you, that kind of thing. So
the way that I've looked at that is, I do believe in the you should replace yourself every year philosophy. A good rule of thumb for that is count how many spots on the petition have a requirement for somebody to sign, and then make sure you sign that many petitions per year, you know? Because if it takes, so for example, for chapter and council, it takes 3 signatures, and for commandery, it takes 2. And so I know that as a member of those bodies, I need to sign 3 petitions for chapter and council every year, and 2 petitions for commandery every year. So kind of like that. So because multiple people can collaborate on one. So I feel like that's a good rule of thumb.
right.
No.
Now it used to be that you had to be a Knight Templar or a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason, and that got dropped in 2000, I think.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Like the keeping the requirement, bringing it back, whether or not that was a positive thing to have that in the first place? Just kind of spitball.
I mean, for me, I don't necessarily see why that would be something that we need to bring back, because once you're a Freemason, when you get involved in the lodge and things like that, again, I think one of the things that the shrine offers to you is, again, that kind of play place, the fun place to go. I'm not saying that your lodge isn't a fun place, but usually at the lodge you're focused on ritual, and there's lots of things that you need to learn. And honestly, at the shrine, there's nothing to learn. You don't have lines or anything that you need to learn. It's just a place to come and hang out and have fun. The thing is that we were built on the idea of truth, relief, and brotherly love, but Shrine has brought in the idea of fun, and ultimately, what we're in this for, the idea of philanthropy.
Right. That makes sense. And then kind of going even further with this idea, I know that some jurisdictions of the shrine do not require Shriners to be Masons, and that's more of a jurisdictional territorial issue, but do you think that that kind of thing will help or hurt the shrine in the long run, and whether or not it will help or hurt Masonry in the long run?
I think that I don't think people would get as much out of Shrine if they weren't Masons. You know what I mean? I think that Shrindom enhances the brotherhood that you have with Masonry. I think Shrine just adds that little extra oomph to it. So call me an old timer or whatever, but I really think that the requirement of being a Master Mason should stand.
Yeah, that's fair, because like we said earlier, it's the playground.
Right. And speaking of that, one of the things that I think I would be remiss if I didn't say this is, like, when there's no higher degree than a Master Mason, but people go to York Rite and they go to Scottish Rite for particular things. If you're looking for Masonic education, you're going to go to York Rite or you're going to go to Scottish Rite. I think what drew me to Shrine was not Masonic education, but it was actually putting what I learned as a Mason into practice. Instead of talking about relief, going and actually standing on a street corner and collecting money for my shrine hospitals. When we're talking about doing things for widows and orphans and things like that, getting together with my unit to go over to one of the widows from one of our unit members has passed away, going over to her house and helping to take care of her yard or something like that. So that's one of the reasons that I joined the shrine, was because I really wanted to put my words to action. it wasn't that I hadn't learned. It wasn't that I had learned so much and that I didn't need to learn anymore. It was just I'm more of an action guy, and so I wanted to go and put that into action. And again, I'm not saying that the York Rite or the Scottish Rite,
Oh, no, no,
that they're
no.
not doing anything. What I'm just saying is that in my experience, I really felt a calling towards the shrine because I felt like I could do the most there.
Yeah, from what you're describing, it seems like it's a very practical. It's a very appropriate avenue to practice masonry. So I think
Right,
that's
exactly.
really cool. So you got the light. Now go spread it.
Right. And I know that you guys have said this on the podcast before. It's like, some people are like, well, I never see that guy in Blue Lodge, but he's a Shriner and he's out on the street corners twice a year collecting money for the hospitals. He's doing blood drives. He's at the circus. He's doing all of this kind of stuff. That's still operative masonry. He's still doing what he was taught to do in the Blue Lodge,
Yeah, and I think that's one of the really cool things about the charitable arms of the Masonic family. Hey, this is real masonry right now, right here.
One of the myths that hopefully I can help to kind of bust is that a lot of people think that all Shriners do is drink and cause problems. They're just the party boys of masonry, and that's really not the case. I mean, we like to have a good time, but at the same time, don't you have guys in your Blue Lodge that like to have a good time?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
So I really want to make sure that the listeners understand about the idea of our philanthropy. If you've never heard the phrase before, Shriners Hospitals is called the world's greatest philanthropy, and we've had that moniker for quite a while. Ever since the beginning, Shriners have been known for their philanthropic efforts. Back in the 1800s, we worked with people that were that had yellow fever. We worked in 1899. There was flood victims in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, that we helped out. And in fact, 71 of the 79 temples by 1898 were engaged in some sort of philanthropic work. So it wasn't that they were just getting together to party, but they were doing things. And so it really started to kind of become this drumbeat in Shrindom that they wanted to find a philanthropy. So there's an imperial potentate. His name is Freeland Kendrick. In 1919, he went to a Scottish Rite hospital, and he saw what they were doing there, and he came up with this idea of, hey, why don't we help with, orthopedics, helping kids to walk and stuff, because I believe at this time you're having, the polio epidemic in the United States.
Yeah.
And so they were wanting to help with that. And so he really kind of got on the bandwagon of this, helping out kids with the hospitals. And so he traveled like 150,000 miles. Now, this is 1919. 150,000 miles. He went to like a whole bunch of temples and stuff like that to tell people about this idea that he had. And so at the Imperial session in Portland, Oregon in 1920, he proposed this idea of having these hospitals to help kids. And there was a big long name to it and stuff like that, but I don't quite remember it at this time. But the weird thing is that at that time, there were a lot of the Shriners that really had doubts about this because they didn't want to up their dues by $2.
Oh.
Right. Okay. Now again, we're talking 1919, 1920, so that's it. $2 doesn't seem like that much, but it was a bit back then. And so I have to put this in here because when I hear this, it's just really cool. So it looked like the vote at the Imperial session was going to fail, that they weren't going to go into this philanthropy. And this is what's called the blowing bubbles speech. It's this guy by the name of Noble Forrest Adair from Atlanta, and he gets up and he tells his brothers in session. He says, I was laying in my bed yesterday morning about 4 o'clock, and some poor fellow who had strayed from the rest of the band stood down there under the window for 25 minutes playing I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles. This was a popular song in the early 1900s, and it talks about kind of like the futility of dreams, the idea of, you have these big dreams, but you wake up and your bubble pops and all that kind of stuff. And he said, I wondered if there were not a deep significance in the tune that he was playing for Shriners. While we have spent money for songs and spent money for bands, it is time for the Shriners to spend money for humanity. I want to see this thing started. Let us get rid of all the technical objections. And if there is a Shriner in North America who objects to having paid the $2 after he has seen the first crippled child helped, I will give him a check back for it myself. And he sits down, and as the story goes, thunderous applause, and they decided unanimously, yes, this is what we're going to do. And so that's where Shriners Hospitals for Children started. There was a bunch of guys that said, look, we're having fun and this is great, but what are we doing in order to help these kids that need help? And so Shriner said, hey, let's start a hospital. And so they were just going to start one hospital, but the guys got together and they got so ingrained into this. They were like, no, let's not just start one hospital. Let's start a network of hospitals. And so what we have now is we have a network of actually 23 hospitals throughout North America that help children to do what they need to do, and that's to be kids regardless of their family's ability to pay.
That's one hell of a call out too. If you don't like it, I'll give you a check back. What would you say that the Shrine hospitals concentrate on? Because I know that they burns and crippled kids, right? Is kind of like the
right. The things that we concentrate on, of course, are orthopedic conditions. So people with brittle bone disease and things like that. Burns, spinal cord injuries, cleft lip and palate. Those are kind of the big things that we do. And the thing is that if you are not sold on being a Shriner, I challenge you to come with me to the Shriners hospitals and see these kids that are in casts, that are made at the hospital with smiles on their face. When you walk in with a fez and a kid that might not even know English smiles at you because they know who you are, man, that is the selling point right there. You are a Shriner for life when you see those kids smiling at you.
Man, that is really cool.
Yeah. And the thing is that, especially when I was talking about the casts and stuff, we make those at our hospitals. We don't have to send out. We have the mold made there. They're made in-house. And when we give those to the kids, we expect for those kids to come back in a month or 2 months with that cast broken because they were outside playing and got a little bit too rough. That's the stuff that we love to see. We want kids to be kids, and we want to help them along the way.
That is a very cool set of expectations to have for patients. I like that a lot.
Right.
Yeah, that's masonry at work for sure.
Exactly.
Now, you mentioned the Legion of Honor earlier. Mm-hmm. Can you tell us a little bit about that? I know you kind of touched on that, but can we get a little more info on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I know about them. But like I said, the Legion of Honor, they are a group within Shrine that is specifically for, you have to be a military veteran to be in the Legion of Honor. And, they do all kinds of stuff. But they're mainly known as our guys that do like the color guard. So they take care of the American flag and the Texas flag and do stuff like that. But I'll tell you, again, all of those guys that are in the Legion of Honor, cool guys, great stories. And like I said, one of the things that sold me on Shrine is, again, you get to hang out with some of the coolest people you will ever meet.
You told us about the hospital. Could you tell us a bit about Moslah Circus? I know that you said that that's kind of where you got your introduction to the Shrine.
Yeah. Okay. One of the things that I need to make sure that people understand is like our circus that we have is not a fundraiser for the hospitals. The circus is like the main fundraiser that we have to keep our lights on. It's kind of like, it's how we get money to do what we need to do throughout the year. you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, yeah, in order for us to have a meeting space, in order for us to help fund, the units so that they can have different things and stuff like that, we got to have money in the kitty. And so that's where the where the circus came from. And let's see, I think we're going on 76 or 77 years of Moslah circus. And we've been a couple of places and stuff, but it's really cool. I enjoy the circus, man. When it's circus time, it is like go time, because we're up there every day. It used to be in the olden days, the Shrine Circus was 2 solid weeks.
Wow.
Yeah,
like
it was
Mardi
2
Gras in New
weeks.
Orleans.
And last year was the first year that we had. It was just a 4-day circus, and I had worked the circus previous to that, and it was. I had just got into the shrine, so my first experience as a Shriner was working the circus, and that was again one of those 2-week circuses, and it was like, whoa, this is a lot. But I think the main thing about the circus is that it's one of those things that we are still providing kind of like old-fashioned entertainment for the family. How many people get to say that they get to go to the circus when they're a kid? It used to be popular. It's not so popular anymore.
It's not really a thing anymore. I remember going to the circus like maybe 4 or 5 times as a kid, but only 2 of those times were in the United States. All the other times were when I was living abroad. Because
the thing is
circuses aren't really a thing in the States.
Right. Well, the big thing is like the first year that I went to the circus, I was like, oh, okay, this looks pretty cool. And then, some of your listeners will probably understand why I was geeking out on this, but they had some of the flying Walendas there. The people, they were high wire act, and they're like world famous. So I got to see the flying Walendas, at the Shrine Circus in Fort Worth, Texas, in the stockyards. I got to see, they brought out elephants and people were riding elephants, and they had, the lion tamer and all that kind of stuff. It was so cool. But, and the thing is that when we're doing that, you get to see the little kids come, and it's maybe their first experience with a circus and stuff like that. Just a wonder in their eyes, and and then of course they see this funny guy walking around with a fez on, and there's clowns and all that kind of stuff. It's just it's a really, really cool experience.
That does sound awesome. I like that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that a lot of people don't know a lot about Shrine. But when they see that guy in that tasseled hat, they're like, oh, I've heard about you. What are you? And then you start talking about Shrine, and it's like, oh, I remember when I was such and such, age, and I went to the Shrine Circus. Or,
cool.
The cool thing is when you start talking about being a Shriner, and you have adults that say, oh yeah, I was at Shriners Hospitals back in 1960 something for whatever. And these people have their grandkids with them, and you see that the work that the Shriners did back then is still at work, because they're not defined by the club foot that they have, or they're able to walk with their kids and their grandkids. That's the payoff, is when you see that, and that what you've been doing is helping a lot of people.
So then I guess kind of bringing the discussion to a little bit of a close, in terms of elevator speeches, right? You're riding in an elevator with a guy, and I'm going to ask for 2 of them, right? Like, what's your elevator speech to a Master Mason who is kind of thinking about the Shrine, and what is your elevator speech for a Master Mason who's never even heard of the Shrine, as unlikely as that is?
Boy, you're asking these like tough hitting questions. I feel like I'm on an interview. And then of course you have to remember that once you guys get this posted up, the potentate's going to be listening to this. So I gotta make sure that this is really good. My elevator speech to somebody that's a Master Mason who's been thinking about coming into the shrine would be, I would say for someone that wants to become a Shriner, if you enjoy seeing a smile on a kid's face, if you enjoy knowing that what you're doing is helping kids to be kids, if you enjoy being around brothers that really have your back and that are some of the coolest, funnest guys that you are ever going to know, then you should come and hang out with us at the shrine.
Wow.
Because
I think I was asking the wrong question there, because that's something that answer works for guys who are thinking about shrine and guys who've never even heard about the shrine. That's a much better answer than the question that was asked.
I've only been a Shriner for a couple of years, but I'm really passionate about this. And I really want guys to, if they've felt like, oh, the shrine wasn't for me, to give us another chance, give us another try. And even if they feel like they can't be Shriners right now, I hope that with everything that I've talked about tonight, that I've helped to shed better light on Shrinedom. We're good guys, I promise you. We're not the guys out there trying to steal people from blue lodges. We're brothers just like you. We're Masons. So the whole old adage of, don't become a Shriner because they're just going to take you from your blue lodge. I really hope that I've helped to dispel some of that.
Yeah, I think you've done a great job. I mean, because when we really dig into it, it's easy to see how this is a total functioning arm for a Blue Lodge, because a thriving Blue Lodge is going to have a lot of different personalities, and all these appendant bodies have little niches that they would just fit right into.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And you explained there's a whole bunch of stuff to do in the shrine. So no doubt, Cody, you've done a great job. We want to thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hey, no worries about it.
All right, let's talk events. In Texas events, Lufkin Lodge 669 is collecting donation items for the Texas Masonic Retirement Center. They'll be collecting clothing, personal items, movies, and medical equipment. They're looking for personal care items like toothpaste, toothbrushes, shampoo, body wash, shaving items, beauty products, general toiletries, that kind of thing. Additionally, they're looking for puzzles, playing cards, and games, especially things like large print crossword puzzle books. Books, music, movies are appreciated as well. So if you have large print puzzle books, or if you have large print books, or if you have movies that have the subtitles included in the DVD, those are also especially appreciated. Please, if you donate clothing, please make sure that the clothing and shoes are new or gently used. If you've got wheelchairs, walkers, IV stands, medical boots, crutches, whatever, as long as it's serviceable and clean, they will also take medical equipment of that kind as well. So if you don't need those anymore, please consider donating them too. On May 20th, Onondaga Lodge 176 is having their second annual Crawfish Bowl in Aquia, Texas, at the Gin Quonset Hut. They'll start serving at 11 a.m. The first ticket is $20, and each one after that is $10. Each ticket gives you a chance to win a genuine Henry Golden Boy 22 long rifle, lever-action rifle, or a Smith & Wesson M&P 22 long rifle semi-automatic handgun. And each ticket does guarantee you a plate of crawfish with all the fixins. They'll also have hot dogs and burgers on site for $5. So if you have questions or you want to buy tickets, please call Brother Coulter at 254-707-0542. In North Texas and Tarrant County, on May 20th, the Oklahoma Indian Degree Team is coming to Garland, Texas. The MWSA of Masonic District No. 9 and East Fork Lodge No. 650 are hosting a Master Mason's degree conferred by the Oklahoma Indian Degree Team. Again, Saturday, May 20th, 1 p.m. following the 11:30 a.m. lunch. The location is the Black Horse Barn at Hell Shrine, 2121 Rowlett Road in Garland, Texas. Tickets are $25, which includes lunch, and seating is limited to 500. So this is coming out on Thursday before the degree. Might not be able to get seating anymore, but you can try. And you can try on eventbrite.com, which is eventbrite.com. If you want more info, please check out eastforklodge.org/Facebook. This event is open to only Master Masons, of course, so please bring your dues card and a photo ID. Also, bring your apron. You're going to need it. They're not going to have enough aprons for 500 people. And I think they said something about bringing your own folding chair, so please do that. So for more info, you can call 972-670-6758 or 214-533-5659. I'm going, a bunch of guys from my lodge are going, a bunch of guys from all over DFW are going. You should check it out. On May 23rd, Ken Curry is receiving his Golden Trowel Award at Handley Lodge 1140. The event starts at 6 p.m., and it's located at 2501 Pollard Street in Fort Worth. So, if you want to help congratulate Brother Curry on receiving his Golden Trowel, and in recognition of many years of faithful service to the craft, please be there. Handley Lodge 1140. May 25th, Webb Lodge 1454 is having a master's degree. They're kicking off at 7:30 p.m., They're located at 7000 Zufelt Drive in Arlington, Texas at 76002. For more info, you're going to want to call 817-468-9992. And they're going to have an informal meal after the degree. The location is yet to be determined. On June 3rd, again Webb Lodge, 1454, they're hosting their third annual Webb Masonic Motorcycle Rally and Lodge Tour. That'll be on Saturday, June 3rd from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. The starting location is Webb Lodge's Dining Hall. Breakfast is going to be provided at 7 a.m. by the wonderful sisters of the Webb chapter of the Order of the Eastern Star. The rider meeting is at 8 a.m., so that's going to be, I guess, stuff like safety and where you're headed and everything. And rollout is half an hour after that, so be there. The tour is going to consist of Godly Lodge 822, Glen Rose Lodge 525, Chalk Mountain Lodge 894, Heiko Lodge 477, Dublin Lodge 504, and Stephenville Lodge 267. So lunch is going to be available at Heiko Lodge 477 at noon. The suggested donation is $7. So throw in 10. The event is open to both Masons and non-Masons, and it's also open to non-motorcyclists. All vehicles are welcome. So the pre-registration is $10 per motorcycle and rider, or $10 per automobile and driver. Each passenger is an additional $5. So if you wanted to take a van full of people, you pay $10, and then everybody that's riding with you pays $5. It's a pretty good deal. On-site registration is $15 a rider or driver instead, but it's still just $5 a passenger. So if you want to get more info, reach out to Brother Junior Warden Michael Mad Dog Lothorpe, who's the ride chairman. He can be reached at 817-276-9090 or at bigdog@scootdog.com, and that's SKOOT dog.com. On June 23rd, Bolivar Masonic Lodge is hosting their third annual clay shoot. Registration is at 8 a.m., start is at 9 a.m., and the location is Fossil Point Sporting Grounds at 7282 North Farm Road, 51 in Decatur, Texas. The event will be organized into 4-person teams at $100 per person. Lunch is provided. Trophy belt buckles will be awarded to the highest overall team score and the highest overall individual score. First, second, and third place teams will receive trophies. Station sponsorship fees are $150 per station, so if you want to sponsor them, that's not bad at all. So get some advertising out there for your business. Ear and eye pro are required, so bring those. And you must bring your own ammo. So please send your registration to Bolivar Masonic Lodge before May 23rd. I didn't get a hang of their contact info, but I'm sure you can find them on Facebook or via the Grand Lodge website. On June 23rd, the Brothers of New Day Lodge 655 are holding their Real Fathers, Real Men Soul Food Experience fundraiser event. They'll be providing chef-made tasty meals to go. Each meal is packaged in a reheatable container for the ease of preparation and serving. So if you're located in the DFW area, They'll deliver the menu items to your door at a date and time of your choosing. The event is happening all weekend of June 23rd, so they're going to take orders until 8 p.m. on the 24th, and they'll deliver until 5 p.m. on the 25th. They're offering baby back ribs, barbecue chicken wings, meat combos, taters, beans, coleslaws. Their sauce is from scratch, and they've got a banana pudding. And so they've got individual plates, and they've also got family meals that feed up to 6. I think it says 4 to 6. So they're taking pre-orders now. So if you want to reach out to them and put in an order before that weekend, reach out to them at www.newdaylodgepha655.org, and you can put in an order over there. So the brothers from New Day encourage you to join in on the Real Fathers, Real Men Soul Food experience, and they warn you, sleep late, lose weight. On June 26th, River Oaks Lodge is having their installation, and this is a really special one. Brother Sam Levacy is being installed as worshipful master at the age of 100 years old. He's a real deal centenarian. So most worshipful Grandmaster Jerry Kirby will be there presiding over the installation, and the Tarrant County Commandery Standard Guard will be presenting the American and Texan flags. The meal is going to be at 6 p.m. and the installation will begin at 7 p.m. Fort Worth Lodge's very own senior warden, soon to be worshipful master, Greg Wright, will be smoking the barbecue. So please join us in welcoming our favorite centenarian, Brother Sam, to the Oriental chair. And just as a reminder again, June 26th, mark that on your calendar. If you can make it, it'll be real cool. So in the temple, we've got some upcoming events too. On May 22nd and May 23rd, Texas Chapter is putting on the Mark Master Mason's degree on that Monday. And on that Tuesday, they'll be putting on the Past Master and Most Excellent Master degrees. So if you are a companion, please join me and the rest of the guys from Texas Chapter and Council as we welcome 3 worthy brothers to the York Rite and teach them how to earn their wages. On May 25th, the Fort Worth Scottish Rite is putting on their 4th annual festive board. The reception is at 6:30 p.m., followed shortly by dinner. The keynote speaker is Brother Eddie Robinson, who you may know from his time as a Major League Baseball player, coach, scout, manager, and I think a couple other roles. The event is only open to Master Masons, and the dress code is coat and tie, so be prepared. Reservations are required because attendance is limited to 62. So the cost for dinner and wine is $25 or $30 if you don't get your RSVP in by noon on Tuesday, May 23rd. So you have to reserve in advance, but you do have the option of prepaying or paying at the door. To make your reservation, either call 817-335-6004 or email fwsroffice@fortworthscottishrite.org with your name, lodge affiliation, phone number, and email address. And you can pay via credit card by phone, check by mail, or in cash check at the office. And the proceeds benefit the Fort Worth Scottish Rite Almoners Fund. As always, Fort Worth 148 meets on the second Monday of each month, starting dinner at 6 p.m. for a 7 p.m. stated meeting at 1100 Henderson Street, Fort Worth, Texas. If you want to reach out to Fort Worth Lodge, please contact us at www.fortworth148.org or at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook. Our email is also info148@fortworth148.org. If you live in the 64th District of the Grand Lodge of Texas and you want to promote an event or learn more about events in the 64th District, please reach out to them at 64th.org. That's 64th.org.
If anybody out there wants some information on Moslah Shrine, please feel free to contact us. The office number is 817-335-9569, or they can go to moslahshrine.org. A lot of the information that you heard tonight was pulled directly from shrineinternational.org. And then, of course, if anybody really, really wants to, they are more than welcome to contact me personally. My email address is Cody, Cody.Cox, C-O-X, @tarrantlodge.org. And shameless plug here, again, I've said this before, I'm helping with the 64th.org website. So if any of your lodges have degrees that are coming up or events or anything like that, please feel free to reach out to the 64th.org and we will get your event put up on our website.
Okay, so I've got 2 quotes for you guys tonight, and one of them is a little bit more serious than the other, and then the other one's a little bit silly, so you guys get the serious one first. When the road looks rough ahead, remember the man upstairs and the word hope. Hang on to both and tough it out. That was by brother and noble John Wayne. And his second quote that I included is, life is hard. It's harder if you're stupid. It's not related to anything, but it's one of my favorite John Wayne quotes, so I had to throw that in.
I love it. All right, let's wrap this thing up. This is Rhit Moore signing off.
This is Gabriel Jagush signing off.
And this is Cody Cox signing off.